community until actually well after ESG3 was over, and I became re-involved with the Brits, with Brian, and with Reinhard Budig at Max Planck.
Okay, I don't know.
So that they run the German model in Max Planck Mineralogy in Hamburg. And Reinhard's interest was in, they had to do this provenance and metadata capture for CMIP5, and it wasn't done in the way in which it needed to be done, and they had to, like I had told them, you can't retrofit this, you have to build it in. So they reapproached me to sort of relook at what they might do for CMIP6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe just let's see, where am I at here? So maybe we just talked through sort of 1, 2, and 3, and we've probably already touched on these things a little bit, but from your perspective, what do you see as sort of the key outcomes in terms of, you look at sort of the big success of, say, ESG1 or ESG2, these are the things that we really took forward, and you maybe touched on these briefly, but...
ESG1 was definitely the proof that you needed a high-performance data infrastructure to really take on, studies that for distributed model repositories. I mean, it was you couldn't continue to do FTP, download a data set, and do the science the same way. It was proof that you could implement something that would greatly accelerate the science because they were under pressure to get assessments done. ESG2 built out the infrastructure. One thing in ESG2, which I think was really fairly remarkable and good proof for the community, was that the data, I think it was called data registration, that was done at PCMDI. Again, Bob Dryle led that. Proved that if you had it's the climate metadata convention.
The CF?
CF.
Yeah.
If you had CF compliant model runs, they could be ingested, and we had a really, really quite robust and high quality catalogue as a result, which, you know what it's like. It's the metadata completion level is always the pain, but you've got a model, you auto-generate this. So they were ingesting is what I say, registering all sorts of model runs from all over the place, and I would say in a very successful way. And it proved that that you could in fact deliver the bits of those data sets that the scientists, the analysts needed through client tools that were familiar to them. They didn't have to learn new client tools. So that was good. And I mean, that was sort of early on in the day of distributed data infrastructures. I think, and the success is, we got a certificate sharing the Nobel Prize. Probably seen that slide. In appreciation, I show that regularly at talks. And that it did, and the infrastructure really has scaled up. And there were various technologies used along the way that were tried and evaluated, and some were retained and some were not used anymore for various reasons. I think we learned a lot in the process of. Certainly ESG2, I think, is where we really learned the most. Because we generated 42 use cases.
Okay.
And we used 8.
Okay.
And that was sufficient to implement really 95% of the functionality.
And just sort of off the top of your head, what's an example of a type of use case you were using there?
I've mentioned one, get me globally average sea surface temperature for the last 1,000 years.
Okay.
That was sort of a fundamental one from a particular model run, and then I've still got all of them somewhere.
So was this when you started developing the we would now call the Fox-McGinnis use case model, or was that later? Okay, yep. So that was part of the ESG.
The development of the use case does predate the actual semantic methodology, but the use case documentation and the analysis actually grew out of things that I did at NCAR in the 90s.
Okay.
So we were well prepared for such an exercise, and it really